introducing something new that I will start doing every Fridays. So I can't wait to share that with you all this upcoming Friday. Today's story is going to be a story that I've never done before. We're going to be talking about Mary Vincent, who was a victim of Lawerence Singleton, and another one of his victims was Roxanne Hayes. They were both attacked in the late 70s and the late 90s. So let's go ahead and get into the video. Sit back, relax, and enjoy some crime time. And don't forget your snack. Warning, this content is for educational purposes only. Some viewers might find this disturbing. Parental discretion is advised. Mary Vincent was born in 1963 in Las Vegas, Nevada. She was one out of 7 children. Her father worked as a mechanic and her mother a blackjack dealer. As a teenager, she was a dancer and dreamt of traveling around the world as a performer one day. During the time of the attack, she was struggling with accepting her parents being divorced. Before deciding to leave Vegas, if she wasn't living with her boyfriend, she was living on the streets and inside unlocked cars for a small period of time. In September of 1978, 15-year-old Mary decided to catch a ride to Berkeley, California to spend the night at her grandfather's house. In today's society, hitchhiking is less common, and honestly, I believe in some parts of the country it is illegal. But back in the 70s, hitchhiking was the common thing to do for people with no cars or teenagers that were simply trying to get around, such as Mary. As for predators, this was their perfect opportunity to blend in, posing as the, quote, good guy when they really had other motives. On the day of September 29th, 1978, Mary stood on the side of the road with 2 other hitchhikers when 50-year-old Lawerence Singleton pulled his blue van over. Lawerence told them that they only had room for 1 rider. Despite the warnings from the others, she hopped in. During the ride, Mary dozed off. When she woke up, she realized they were going in a different direction. She stated to Lawerence, quote, look, you're going the wrong way, and you know you're going the wrong way, end quote. Lawerence assured her that it was just an honest mistake, and there was nothing to be worried about. He informed her that he needed to stop at a rest stop to use the bathroom. Her mind was racing as she could imagine. She thought, quote, I'm young, he's old. I'm healthy, he's not, end quote. She could outrun him and get away. When they arrived at the rest stop, Lawerence got out first. Mary realized her shoelaces were untied. If she wanted to make a run for it, she needed to tie her shoelaces. As she bent down towards her foot, he came behind her and hit her in the head twice with a sledgehammer. Mary was knocked unconscious. When she awoke, she was tied up in the back of the van with each of her arms tied to the opposite windows. Throughout the night, Lawerence inappropriately took advantage of her. The next morning, Mary begged for Lawerence to set her free. He responded with, quote, if you want to be set free, I'll set you free, end quote. He laid Mary on the side of the road, grabbed a hatchet, and severed both of her arms from her elbows off. She was conscious during this time and in very much pain and agony, as you could imagine. Mary went unconscious. Lawerence, thinking she died due to her severely bleeding, he dragged Mary and threw her off of a 30-foot cannon. eyebrows raised. This would stop the muscles and blood from falling out. A red convertible with 2 men inside approached her. She called for help and they quickly sped off. A truck approached her. They helped her into their vehicle and sped to a phone to call paramedics. 10 days after the attack, Lawerence was identified by Mary and was charged with a number of charges. In March of 1979, the trial began in San Diego. Lawerence Singleton was convicted of kidnapping, mayhem, attempted murder, assault, sodomy, and forced oral copulation. After Lawerence was done testifying, Mary walked past just inches away from him. She overheard him say, quote, "I'll finish the job if it takes me the rest of my life," end quote. He was sentenced to only 14 years in prison, which at the time was the maximum in California. He only served 8 out of his 14-year sentencing and was given parole for good behavior. He was released in 1987. Mary won $2.56 million in a civil suit, but she didn't get anything because Lawerence had $200 in his savings. Lawerence sentencing is the reason why California laws were changed. If they had been changed by the time this crime was committed, he would have served 31 years. He would have been released at 82 years old. For the last 23 years, Mary has been living in fear that he may come back and finish the job. Mary moved to Washington in 1987 and got married, which lasted 3 years. She was paralyzed with fear that she was not able to do her daily routines. She moved into a rundown gas station near Tacoma, Washington. She became so tiny that her weight went down below 100 pounds. After Lawerence's release, many towns refused for him to live there. Eventually, state officials moved him into a trailer on the property of San Quentin State Prison. In April of 1988, Lawerence was released from parole and began bouncing around from place to place. He was in and out of jail, and on September 14th, 1990, he was released from jail after serving 48 days for petty theft. On February 19th, 1997, a local house painter discovered a grisly scene. The painter left and immediately called 911. Lawerence was nude and covered in his own blood. He was repeatedly stabbing 31-year-old Roxanne Hayes, who was not moving on his couch. Roxanne Hayes was a mother of 3. She was a prostitute and did what she had to do to support her family. She agreed to meet Lawerence for $20. Lawerence claimed that she tried to take more money than what they agreed on. This started a struggle. Allegedly, Roxanne had the knife and he was trying to take it away from her. Clearly, this story was not true due to the local house painter witnessing the whole thing. 3 weeks after this incident, Lawerence attempted to take his own life 3 times by funneling carbon monoxide into his van as neighbors watched for hours. In his note that was left on his dining room table, he wrote, quote, "I hope I'll find peace. Please have me cremated and have my ashes thrown into Palm River on the outgoing tide," end quote. When his windows fogged up, he climbed into his van for the 3rd time. 40 minutes passed. A neighbor figured something was wrong and found 69-year-old Lawerence unconscious. The neighbor propped his head on a pillow outside of the van, and the neighbor's wife called 911. He was taken to a psychiatric hospital for a short period of time before being transferred to jail until his trial began. Mary flew from California sees the light of day again. She explained in great detail everything she went through and gave them a valid reason as to why Lawerence should never walk free again. His defense team argued that he never meant to kill Roxanne and that it was a mistake due to his emotion at the time. After the jury deliberated for 4 hours, they came back with a guilty verdict. On April 14th, 1998, Lawerence Singleton was sentenced to death for the murder of Roxanne Hayes. He had no remorse. On December 28th, 2001, while waiting his death sentence, Lawerence died at the age of 74 due to cancer. There were speculations that Mary and Roxanne were not his only victims. He may have killed at least a dozen people. Today, Mary is an artist and a victim's advocate. She has 2 kids who are possibly grown now, and she stays out of the spotlight as much as possible. I just love when people turn something so negative into something so positive. I hope that she has found peace and strength, and I send my condolences out to Roxanne's family, hoping for peace and strength as well. Thank you all so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed this type of content, go ahead and like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below if you haven't already. What did you all think about this video? This story was very, I don't even know, I don't have the words for it, but Mary was a very brave 15-year-old girl. Like, wow, this story was amazing. She had such a successful story, and it was just messed up how the system failed Roxanne Hayes, his other victim. If he would have stayed locked up as he should have been, she would have never been his victim. I'm so glad the system did change. He was released for good behavior. I really don't think good behavior should exist. Stay safe, stay blessed, and I'll catch